The Queen's Justice has been served. A fantasy meetup we've been waiting for since 1996 finally took place, at least on the show. Thrones Talk is live for Monday morning, and we're looking at episode 3 of season 7, The Queen's Justice. With me to do that on this early morning for us, but you may be watching in a time zone, and use the hashtag Thrones Talk on Twitter to join the conversation. Dennis Tzeng. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning. I'm excited. It's early in the morning, but I'm pumped up because that was a fantastic episode. I can't wait to talk about everything with you guys.
Absolutely. You loved it. I loved it. Rachel Cushing, you're on the show again today, which we always love to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me back. My experience of the episode was tempered by all the magic carpet riding that was going on. I'm a map junkie, had a hard time with armies and navies, getting places in a blink of an eye. However, there was some amazing acting, some of the best acting of the series going on in this episode. So I think I will eventually love it, but I have to get over my magic carpet envy first.
They're all mermaids. And speaking of mermaids,
is that the explanation?
Jon Rocha is here.
Enough of that nerd talk. It was an awesome episode. It was kick-ass. I loved it to pieces. There was so much happening. No, but Rachel brings up a lot of great points, which I'm sure we're going to get to. But if we're going to start, disseminating time jumping now, we'll just destroy the whole series. It's ridiculous how fast they can move across land and sea when it's convenient for the storyline. But no, what a fantastic episode. I can't wait to get into it with you all. There's so much to chew on here.
Yeah, well, let's go overall what's going on. I actually love the pacing. I understand what you're saying because this has happened before. Yeah. How did Baelish get up to Molestown and Sansa jump down, all those kind of things. But I also, one of my least favorite episodes of the series is episode 2 of season 1, The King's Road, because it's them traveling. Oh, yeah. And I don't want an episode, Dennis, where Jon and Davos are having some chicken on a boat, and we're about 2 weeks away. But to your point, if I'm a map junkie too, Rachel, and it's like, oh, how did they got around in their ships all the way up to Casterly Rock? But overall, I really love what's going on in this season overall, but this episode particularly because for me, this is season 1 and 2 callback stuff. This is season 1 and 2 show. They're much like a cast changes in Saturday Night Live. Seasons 5 and 6 for me were like the next generation. It was like after season 4 when Tywin had died, and after season 3, the Red Wedding, it cleared out a lot of the people we fell in love with or loved to hate. And suddenly we have these new people popping up, and Euron being one of them. And it was like, still the show I love, but where's the great Jon? I got the small Jon. Where's Lord Rickard Karstark? I got his son, Harold Karstark. Now I feel as though we're back to the feel, the flavor, and the spice of season 1 and 2. So I don't know what you guys think overall before we dive into the big stuff, John.
What, of the episode?
Just the episode and what's going on so
I love
far.
how everything is going. I was worried when they were coming off the books. I'm worried that they were going to be standard TV writing, do convenient stuff that doesn't really work. And they said that they were going to increase the pace of this season. It's only 7 episodes, so we got to move fast. But everything they're doing, even last night when the opening intro, I'm like, man, they're going to all these places in one episode. I wonder what the record is of how many places they've been to in one episode. So to me, it was intense. But what they did was they really focused on Dragonstone as the main place and as the jumping off point for all the other places. And now they don't need to spend a lot of time in each place like they felt they needed to do, almost like Walking Dead when one of its worst seasons did. They are jumping into the places, getting in and getting out, which is what they tell you is the best part of screenwriting. And you see that happening here in these episodes. So I'm on board on this train. I love what's happening. I love how quickly they're moving. And I'm cool with some of the jumps and whatever because it keeps the narrative flowing smoothly. And like you said, I'm not bored on episode 2, season 1, going like, okay, they're still on the boat. Great. Can we get to somewhere? Especially because we've been waiting for Dany to do something for 6+ seasons. So finally, to have people having that conversation with her in the episode was brilliant.
Yeah, it's the fastest move. This is season 5. Jon and Dany meeting would have been like, hi, I'm Jon. Hi, I'm Dany. Can I have a dragonglass? Yeah, sure. Rachel?
We can't bury the lead. Dany met Jon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is just such a huge moment, and thankfully the creators let it play. We checked into Dragonstone like 3 different times over the course of this episode, and it played out in such an amazing way. And along with Davos and Tyrion, they had great moments, and so like all of that was just simply amazing. Like I said, the acting in the episode was upped big time, and the balance. I talked about it last week. We still got really amazing character moments on top of the forward momentum and the action and everything else. And the fact that this season is maintaining that balance is incredible, and it makes me so happy because we love these characters so much. And bottom line, thematically, this episode was all about children of their fathers and reflecting what their fathers did, how the mistakes that they made, trying not to be judged by what their fathers did, but by their own merits. I will talk more about that. But there was so many amazing things about this. I just wish the word fortnight hadn't come up to like make it so that there was an exact amount of time for all the moving around.
Right, I get that. Hey, but they had good win. They had good win, Dennis. Overall thoughts of this episode, then I want to get into the big stuff.
Yeah, I love this episode. For me, the jumping around doesn't bother me. I know I'm not a map junkie. I did read that Benioff and Weiss talked about, like, when you watch an episode, this scene and the scene that comes after is like they could be weeks apart, days apart.
Sure.
It's not like they're all put together. They just made it for the viewer, so that didn't bother me. You know, we'll talk about the Jon and Daenerys scene later because that's a big highlight for me. Yeah, I think this episode was nice. Actually, I know we went to a lot of different areas, but what I liked was that we stayed at certain places for a long period of time, where the first two, which I still like those episodes, they jumped around a lot more, especially that first episode. They tried to hit every single point. They hit every single character. There's characters that were not in this episode, which thankfully, it let the rest of it breathe more.
Right. I absolutely agree with that. And we're going to talk about that right now. As Rachel said, we don't want to bury that lead. The first book, Game of Thrones, came out about 1996, right,
Yep.
Rachel? Now, I have been at 1996. I didn't read it. It was much later. But since then, people have been asking for it. They've been wanting. They've been dreaming for the day where Daenerys Targaryen and Jon Snow meet. And, well, Rachel, it finally happened. They got to take some time. I love that the episode starts with this. You and I both thought it was Theon hitting the shores.
Yeah.
No, it's Jon and Davos. And I literally said to myself, aloud in my room, oh, we're doing this.
Exactly.
It's happening. So take me through your emotions. You've been the longest book reader here. This finally happened.
It's when they said it last week, I've got a lot of tweets, and they're like, well, maybe next week they won't meet. Maybe they'll save it for episode 4. And then when it was the first scene, the first moment, and they stepped foot on Dragonstone, I was like, yes, this is actually happening. And all the moving parts of it were amazing. Like I said, Davos, Melisandre really stepped up. Tyrion. I mean, Jon and Tyrion greeting each other again since season 1 was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved their joking dynamic, Bastard of Winterfell, Dwarf of Casterly Rock, and then they both smile because they've both been through hell and back, literally, kind of for Jon, and they talk about Tyrion's scar, and all of that just like brought us back to that first season, and then that long walk up and talking about Sansa, and then the meeting, and Dany was Dany. Dany was very sort of forceful and like bend the knee, and I knew he wouldn't do it, and he didn't. But it's all about points of view and what they each want out of that scene, and they're both very stubborn people, and we as viewers kind of want to strangle them and say, would you just like relax and pay attention to each other? But from their points of view, he sees her as the Mad King's daughter. She sees him as a rebellious lord who won't acknowledge her rule. Like, they're on opposite sides, of a chasm at this point, and it's going to take Tyrion and Davos and people to bring them together. But I love that they both stuck their ground. They both had great points, and in that majestic room with everything going on, I mean, the humor was on point, the pacing was on point. Everything about that was pretty much what I'd hoped it would be.
Yeah, and John, I want to go back to that Tyrion moment. I loved, Rachel talks about season 1 moments. Those are some of the best stuff in season 1. Yeah. You're a bastard, wear it, and no one will hurt you with it. Yeah. I love that Tyrion could be honest with Jon again. I would have advised against you coming here. I love that they have those moments, and it really kind of fueled the beginning of the scene, as did Davos's humor. This is a king. It's Jon Snow. What did you take away from this stuff?
Yeah, I absolutely love that opening with them. I mean, that's how dudes greet each other sometimes. A little ball busting, a little but it's a way of like making you feel comfort.
Yeah, the names you used against me this morning were
exactly. People know. People know. That's how we do it, right? Especially if we haven't seen each other in a long time. You have that kind of ball-busting dynamic, and all that was missing was like a hug or some kind of weird handshake. That was all that was missing. And then having Davos kind of question Melisandre a little bit of where she's from. All of this. This is an interesting point that he's doing. Like, this is Davos doing his work. His work is like, really, hey, hands behind his back, very submissive in that way, getting in with her. And then their walk up, absolutely. I love the line about Sansa, which said, Davos says this place has changed, which of course is
just a bit.
Allusion to, but like she's starting to let on. I love that line because because Tyrion and Jon obviously have different experiences with Sansa. Tyrion hasn't been around Sansa, seeing her change, and Jon is saying, "Oh, she's starting to let on how smart she is," which is great. Yeah. And the dragon stuff that that Dany pulled, oh, she sent those dragons up there. I mean, seriously, right? And then all the lead up and Melisandre with, I mean, they took his weapons as like a Western where you have to turn your weapons into the. So there was a lot of this that where Dany was trying to really force her rule, like her strength, her position of power on them. And then when they get into the meeting, she was too cocky, she was too arrogant. It bothered me a lot because she's not the queen yet. So don't ask me to bend the knee to someone who isn't quite there yet, right? And so I thought that was a little presumptuous of her. And then Jon came back, and I love that. There was a great dynamic because they both, you're right, Rachel, they're both stubborn, but they're also strong. And they believe in what they believe. Jon embracing him for the first time ever, like really embracing being king of the North and knowing that what his duty is to his subjects there. And of course, Daenerys explaining her situation. Her apology was nice. That was a nice deft turn. But then having her explain why she feels the way she feels, what she's been through, what she's had to endure, talking about her rape, talking about her being like a brood mare is what she uses, all of that. So you get the idea of where both of them are coming from. And I love Melisandre introducing her like Apollo Creed, you know, the Sultan of Swat, the king of Sting, like all this thing. And then you have Davos just go, he's the king of the North. That's pretty much it. But Jon stopping him from telling them that he was stabbed in the heart, that he came back from the dead. When he's talking about White Walkers, I love that he stopped Davos from saying it, because that's how you're going to get people to be more afraid of you if you tell them, hey, White Walkers and dead people are coming. Like, well, I died once. Well, what does that mean? You put that fear into people. So if you're trying to woo them to your side, you want to parcel out the information slowly, not all at once. But Dany's speech is fantastic, and I'm starting to kind of accept this idea of the possible Mad Queen, because she was talking about how, you know, she's saying, I was born to rule the 7 kingdoms and I will, and all this going forward. Of course, later in the episode, she softens thanks to Tyrion, which I enjoyed. So maybe not quite going to the Mad Queen, but that moment kind of, I think, was a play to the fans who have been doing that on Reddit, which I love. So
this a Reddit episode here. Yeah, a lot there, Jon. I love Dennis. This is some of Tyrion's best work as a character. Last season, I felt he kind of didn't have a lot. Peter Dinklage nailed every scene he was in. There was some great stuff, but this is him at his advisory best. And as far as Daenerys, I agree with Jon. A little bit of a, like, this is Slaver's Bay taking over, conquering Dany, but I loved what Tyrion said about, hey, she protects people from monsters. This is part of it, part of what she has to do, and you're a monster right now to her. She doesn't know who you are. I loved all that stuff. What was your takeaways from this?
Well, I mean, with Tyrion specifically, yes, his advice with Jon Snow is great. So far, his battle advice hasn't been the greatest, as we see later in the episode. But for me, like, the moment, you know, we've been waiting. I mean, I haven't read the book, so I haven't been waiting as long as you, Rachel. But like since season 1, we've been waiting for Daenerys and Jon Snow to meet, and it lived up to our expectations. Because you're worried, like, here's this big meeting. What are they going to do with it? I love the back and forth, like you said, the whole intro with Daenerys and listing off all their names, and then like, oh, and this is Jon Snow. I also, like you, Rocha, I was getting very annoyed at Daenerys and her attitude. Like, basically, they're very cocky, very entitled. She hasn't done anything, and she wants to be like, well, I'm the queen. Well, I have the name. Well, you haven't. What battles have you fought? What have you won? What have you done? What have you done for the people of Westeros? Nothing. She's like, I believe in Daenerys Targaryen. Now, when you start talking, you're like a third person. You're talking about yourself in the third person. You got some problems there. But I like that Jon Snow didn't like. He didn't bend the knee. He didn't like give into what she wanted. He was like, I don't know who you are. Like, the only thing I know about you is your dad like burned my family. So I like what he did there. But the whole scene for me was fantastic.
Well, let's dive in more into that scene and talking about Daenerys, and I agree. But let's Jon in his own way is being just as stubborn to her, and like, hey, I killed a creature that was a fantasy, a fairy tale, until it's true. I told you, it's true. We as story viewers, Rachel, know what's going on here. I look at this as two destinies colliding, and that's going to be explosive. That these two characters who both believe, Jon in a different way, Dany in a different way, but I think at the end of the day they have the same point of view. There's the same kind of as viewers we both believe one of them or both of them are Azor Ahai reborn. So destinies are colliding here.
Absolutely, and it's sort of that, like, good feeling of frustration because you're like, you just want them to be on the same page and to believe in each other, but that's not realistic for the situation that they live in. Trust is hard to come by in this world. And I love Tyrion, Jon asked Tyrion, like, you don't think I'm a liar? Do you think I'm a madman? And Tyrion's like, no, I don't. But you are asking us to believe this unbelievable thing about the Night King and the White Walkers. And Dany doesn't want to believe it because she's got so much on her plate as it is. So it's hard to ask them to believe in what he is there for. And he's so impatient in that moment. And that is, one of the lessons that he has to learn. And it's this dancing around each other, trying to fulfill those destinies, but having a hard time convincing. And I love the great Westerosi brood off that happens a little bit later.
Very meta. Very meta.
With Tyrion and Jon basically saying to Tyrion, like, how do I convince people? And Tyrion's like, that's a good question. And Jon's like, well, I need an answer. Like, this is my big problem here. So it's finding ways, both Dany and Jon, to show each other their points of view, and then if they dig to the root of that, they'll see that they're coming from the same place.
Right, Jon. I think Jon Snow is a blunt instrument, and that doesn't necessarily mean he's a dumb guy, but he's been in a world where to get things done, you're going to pull your sword out and you're going to kind of impose your will or kind of work away. Not that he's not smart. He needs this kind of Tyrion moment of, well, ask us something reasonable, because right now it is about grumpkins and snarks. And I love, again, that's why I think this is prime Tyrion. And he got Jon through this scene, I think, and that's what he needed.
Well, listen, he's the hero of this episode. Elena is the superstar, but he's
MVP,
the hero, which we'll see in a second. But Tyrion is the hero of this episode. The way he's able to talk to Jon, to get him to understand where he's coming from. And Tyrion says, I believe you because Mormont told me the same thing. Yeah. And you, Sir Jorah, he told me, and all that. So I have the knowledge that Dany doesn't. But you got to understand, you just met her. To ask her all these things of her, how would you feel if someone was asking something and these unbelievable things? Like, you got, and so Jon, to his credit, and you're right, Ken, in a way, like, without his sword, Jon has to rely on has to learn how to be political, has to learn how to have these conversations, because he's had to use his sword to get everything he's gotten to be king of the North. So when you add that, when you take away that a weapon, he has to be a little more open to negotiation, right? And then Tyrion, of course, works on Dany, saying, give him something that means nothing to you. You don't care about the dragonglass. You don't care about the obsidian. So it's a way of you stepping forward without even sacrificing anything. Right. So that's what brings them together later on in that great scene that completely juxtaposes what happened, or is a complete different 180 from what we saw when they first met each other. Yep. So both of those scenes to me were worth it and very, very well done. And they're back and forth in that scene. Almost felt like a little bit of the beginning of a romance, even though I know they are related. It still felt that way a little bit.
Targaryens, it's what Targaryens do.
Yeah, that's right. they keep it within the family. But it felt a little bit like, okay, or the beginning of a friendship. Either way, it just felt felt good for us to see that coming together and what they were able to get out of it. And Tyrion brought them together by appealing to both their ways of thinking, right? She's not giving anything away because Dany is very firm on this. Jon is having to figure out how to speak about this, but Jon's got to understand how other people might take it. So it's a great way of kind of bringing them together in a way that works.
I love the moment where Jon was staring out at the dragons, because I'm in my head, I'm like, you're probably going to ride one. You're probably going to ride one. Dennis, there's a lot here. I love what Tyrion said. I trust the eyes of an honest man more than what everybody knows. I also love Dany. And we can jump to that when she gives the dragonglass. I love that we have Dany saying words like White Walkers, because that's going back to what I'm talking about in season 1 of something we've been wanting all this to happen. This is what I love about the season. Solutions are beginning to emerge and characters are crossing over. Jorah and Sam later on, all that kind of stuff. Dany and Jon, but it's not just that they're together, it's what they're talking about. Daenerys Targaryen, who's been 6 seasons in Essos, is like, what's this White Walker thing people are talking about? I love that kind of stuff. But she, in the end, did the right thing.
She did the right thing, which made me go okay, because before I was really annoyed with her, but I'm like, okay, she finally did it. What I took away from that second meeting they had, though, was more about obviously Tyrion kind of bridged the gap between the two, and she's when they talk about her, Daenerys goes, oh well, we love what we do best, and then Jon Snow's like, not really, because what he's best at doing is killing people, but he doesn't love it, unlike. And he's the one character out of, like, you're talking about with Cersei, you're talking about Daenerys, you're talking about other people, Euron, everyone's like searching for power. Yeah. He is not. He's trying to do what's best for the realm. So for me, that's my takeaway from that sequence is she's still trying to get power. She feels like I'm the queen. I have to be. He doesn't really, being king in the North is not really his motivation or his goal. The only reason that he takes that mantle is for his people and for the rest of the West.
Which I was surprised, and you said you weren't surprised. I was surprised. The Jon Snow I know would be like, whatever. The Night King's more important. I'll bend the knee. But Rachel, you weren't surprised.
I wasn't, because I think Jon's come a long way in knowing or trying to know what's best for his people, and bending the knee to her for no reason other than she's a Targaryen is not the best for his people. I think that he recognized that he needed to come from a place of power and meet her on like a more even level than it was clear she was willing to meet him on. And I think he understood that. And I think that's a testament to him maybe learning a little bit about negotiation and to be a leader. And like, he's a reluctant leader. He's pretty much the only one in the series. And that's the thing that he's had to overcome. And I think that this season he's been doing a really good job of doing. I mean, he still has a far to go. I mean, he calls himself the Northern Fool because he recognizes the thing that we keep saying about him. Learn from your father's mistakes.
He's got a little self-loathing too.
Yes.
He's a little like, I'm not good at this. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, because I guess, in my mind, he's like, no, fine, I'll bend the knee because let's go fight the Night King. And she's like, I don't believe it. Like, I want power. Like Dennis is saying, that's a great point. These are two people with same goals, but one of them's like, I don't really want this, but I'll do it. And this one's like, I want it. Give it all. I want this seat. John, when we talk about you're our vengeance and revenge expert, but also let's talk about the leadership aspect of these two different styles.
Yeah.
One's worked pretty well. Talk to the freed people in Slaver's Bay. Sure. One might work better in the long term.
Yeah, and this is how we're going to find out as this goes along, because they're both still learning. They're both still young. They're both still new. And Jon can be the way he is because he actually has been named king. Dany hasn't. So Dany's hunger for power is stronger because she wants to affirm her status in the world, and she wants to follow her destiny and embrace her destiny. Jon is a reluctant leader, and I think Dennis. I think he also might have meant he's also good at ruling, and he hates that he's good at it. Like, they keep thrusting him into these positions. Some people get put into these positions of being in charge, and they hate being, because they have that personality and people trust them, they hate being in charge. But I think Jon's way of doing works for the North for right now. Dany's way of doing it is what's going to get her to the top, right? Jon's great at being second or third in the list. Dany wants it all. And so there's a different drive there. So to get where she's going, I think her way works. It may end up being her downfall, but I think it's the only way she's going to get there from where she at. Jon's able to afford this because he's a male in this world versus Dany, who's a female in this world. It's a stronger push, stronger edge. She has to be stronger than him. She has to be more brutal than him to get to where she's going.
And can I just add one thing? And I'm curious if you guys took this away. The very end of their scene standing on the parapet together, he hinted that he would bend the knee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like he's not interested in holding as king of the North. Right. He wants to take down the White Walkers and, save humanity. And then if he survives that, I have no doubt in my mind that he would bend the knee. And he hinted that to her. So that's, again, proof that he's not after power and that he is willing to work with her in that way. But she has to earn him bending the knee.
Yeah. John?
Can I throw something out there? Something occurred to me last night. Maybe this has been said before, but it's incredible how Benioff and Weiss are kind of mirroring what's happening in our world right now. The White Walkers, and I may be stretching here, is almost like climate change. We're all like arguing over pieces of land and who spied on who and who hacked who, and we're trying to get this and get that and remain power, all this kind of jazz. And it's like it could be for nothing as soon as the first real big, huge weather thing happens that destroys an entire continent or destroys entire things. And it's like, this is what he's talking about, which is what Davos says. You'll be. It doesn't matter which skeleton is on the throne. You'll be ruling over a dead king, 7 kingdoms. I think it's interesting how they just slide it in really subtly, and you can make the correlation. It's just brilliant work by them when they're doing this kind of stuff.
Which would also mean that George R. R. Martin had that planned
as
early
well.
on. He was ready early on. He believed. He's like Samwell. He knows. One little moment in here, Dennis, I think we have to mention it. It was typical creepy Melisandre, which I love. I love Melisandre. That's my girl. Oh, yeah. She's on her way out. She also has a bit of a prophetic warning for Varys. She always knows things. I rewatched some stuff from season 5 this weekend, and that moment where she tells Jon Snow, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," was one of the more freaky moments, because how you know that? So Melisandre's leaving. I think just because she doesn't factor in the story. But what do you think that means? She's going to come back to die?
Well, I mean, she said a couple things. I mean, obviously she avoided Davos and Jon Snow for good reason.
Yeah.
But she said, "I brought ice and fire together," which references the actual book name. She said, "My time of whispering in ears of kings is over."
Yeah.
Is she gonna abide by that or not? Because that's what she's spent the whole time we've known her doing. And then obviously what you're talking about, she says she's gonna come back to die, and so is Varys. Varys is gonna be there to die. So she obviously still has a role to play in this story. I think maybe she's gonna go away for a little while.
Come back.
Season 8, maybe she's done for this season. Maybe season 8 she comes back and plays a part.
I think it's possible she's done, but let's not forget, Rachel, she told Arya Stark pretty simply, we'll meet again.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Carice Van Houten isn't coming back, but I do agree with Dennis. I don't think it's going to be this season. I think she plays a part in the Great War, and I'm very intrigued by this, that this is the place I'm going to die, and then says the same thing to Varys, who is also very creepy in this scene, I mind you. I was wondering why last week he didn't show a little more animosity. The guy doesn't like the R'hllor religion, the Red Priestesses and whatnot because of what they did to him. So I was glad to see that aspect back. And his line about, give us common folk one taste of power, and it's like a lion tasting a lamb for the first time. We don't want to give it up. Yeah. I'm like, is that one of those prophetic lines that Varys is going to pull something kind of soonish because he's grasping at power? And again, that's in contrast to somebody like Jon and Dany falling maybe somewhere in the middle. So I found all of that great and that dynamic, but I was like, she rides off into the sunset to Volantis without telling people certain important pieces of information, which is always slightly like, that's for plot and not necessarily like she could have just told everybody the more information about Jon to help Dany and accept him and all that, but she didn't. So she's going off, but we will see her again.
And that's how I want to kind of close this and move on to some of the stuff. Is there was a big piece of information that Jon didn't want out. Melisandre's not saying. Why do we think the death of Jon is being kept from these folks? And what will happen when Daenerys learns he died and rose again, Jon?
Yeah, that's what, and I alluded to that a little bit earlier. That's that. I think if you're pitching the idea of the White Walkers and pitching the idea of a Night King, the last person that should be pitching it is someone who came back from the dead and could have an affinity or a connection to that. And I also want to chime in. I love the Melisandre. I know I rescind every statement I made last week about Melisandre. She won me back over hardcore in this scene, and the confidence with which she said, "I have to die in this country." Just like you. That is a little bit of a prediction. And Varys was unsettled by that. Yeah. We rarely see Varys unsettled by anything. So I love that back and forth. So she has information. You might be right, Rachel. It's certainly possible that it's done for narrative's sake rather than actual character's sake. But it's something that keeps us watching, keeps us mysterious, and we're wondering what's going to happen with them. And the Jon thing, I think, will reveal itself in time. You don't want to surrender all your information. Like a first date, you don't want to give up all your issues from the beginning. You want to take it slow, get to know them, get a little more connected, then maybe you can open up about your stuff. And I think he's just waiting for the right time. And Davos almost blew it by saying too much in that moment. And so you want to control that kind of information.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen?
It's funny because I mean we're just really far beyond Snarks and Grumpkins, right? Like, so there's only so much of the magical that people can take. Maybe it's a small doses thing, and like we got dragons, which is one of the reasons why I thought that like maybe Dany and people would like believe Jon a little bit more. Like nobody thought there'd be dragons, yet look, here's this, and now we got White Walkers and the Whites and the Night King, and coming back from the dead it's tied into what the Walkers are, so there could be some issues there. I also think it's just an incredibly traumatic thing that Jon Snow went through. Yeah. And it was his brothers. So like Davos saying, like, here's the King of the North who united the wildlings with the Northmen, who was, elected the commander of the Watch, who was elected basically King of the North. Well, he might have been Lord Commander, but he was also stabbed by his own guys. So I get why Jon didn't want to tell her. I'm less certain about why Melisandre just didn't offer that information up.
Dennis, why is Melisandre holding back?
Well, I don't know about Melisandre either, but I think with Jon Snow, it's more of a question of like, one, he's probably a little, I don't know if shamed is the right word, but like having his men turn on him is not reflective well on it, no matter what the reasons were. And then also just the fantastical element. I mean, they're already talking about White Walkers and the dead, or the army of the dead coming. Like, okay, let's not throw this this on there
Plus,
as
I came
well.
back to life.
Yeah, exactly. So they're already having a hard time believing him.
Yeah.
So this is another thing that like they're like, oh yeah, right. Oh, and then you rose from the dead. Right, great.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason.
I think there's definitely that too. Also, the art of negotiation. You want to keep something back that your opponent that you're negotiating with doesn't know. The great Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller always says, when I negotiate on the phone with an agent or manager in my house, I stand naked in front of a mirror with a World War II helmet on. They don't know that. It's an advantage I have over negotiating. I think Jon is trying to hold back the one thing that he oh, by the way, I died and rose again. I think he's waiting for the right time to say that whatever it was, that was 20 years in the making, and we finally got it. And I thought there was some great stuff in that scene. I hope you guys thought so too, but let us know. #ThronesTalk on Twitter. Meanwhile, down in King's Landing, we got ourselves a conquering hero returning with gifts and peak Cersei. Oh boy, John Rocha.
Yeah.
Euron. Would you hang out with Euron? I see a little bit.
I've worked for some Eurons.
You've worked
That's
for
for
some
sure.
Eurons.
That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I will say that I have experience with Eurons, absolutely. But these is a rare person in the world, a narcissist with full confidence. Like that's really a rare thing, and he does it, and he pulls it off so well. His bantering with Jaime is one of my favorite things going on this season. Yeah, of course it's a blank measuring contest, but it's a blank measuring contest that he's winning at this point.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways that he's doing, because he could care less what Jaime has to say. Jaime pulls out. Jaime's usually the one that gets the one up on the back and forth, and we see this twice in this episode that he doesn't. This verbal back and forth, and in this situation, Euron, he doesn't. I'm confused to why people are cheering for him, because if I remember, because she blew up the sept, it's crazy in there. So I'm confused by that a little bit.
But Jaime addressed that. Jaime, I think he's right about the people.
Oh,
It
the
changes,
switching?
changes with
Yeah.
the wind.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
changes,
yeah.
and that's why Euron's winning. He's jabbing.
Yeah.
But I think Jaime, this could be what leads to his breaking point, along with some of the stuff with Elena. We'll talk later on. But I think there's a little bit of this like, I'm twitching. I'm ready to blow up on this guy, but I can't. But
right, that moment. Listen, as a man who understands revenge and anger, like when Euron pushes that button about telling him how she likes it, asking him how she likes it, says finger in the bunghole and all that. Jaime's blink is a blink that I remember and I've done before, because some people can push a button to that point of anger, but you can't physically do anything because you don't want to go to jail. But in that moment, he's in front of everybody, and he's like, I can't. So the blink is like him going, I can't believe that I'm capable of this level of anger, and I can't do anything about it.
I've seen you blink during the schmo. Absolutely.
Yeah, has blinked a couple of times.
Dennis, let me ask you. I love what Euron's been putting out there, but in this episode, even I was like, is he a little bit too villain-like? Is he over the top in a good way or bad way? What do you think about Euron?
I like it. I think it's over the top. He has his plan. He knows what he wants. I mean, he wants to be king. I mean, he's saying, "Oh, I want to marry Cersei," or whatever. As soon as they marry, he's gonna slice her throat.
Yeah.
And she's promising. Look, she's no fool either. She's saying, yeah. After the war has been won, then you'll get what you want. We'll get married. No way. If they win, she's gonna slice his throat. With Jaime, that line about the whole, basically talking about mob mentality. Yeah. These are the same people who were throwing stuff at Cersei when she was naked, doing the shame, walking down the street, and now they're cheering her. So basically, the mob is fickle. They'll go wherever they think the winning side is, or whatever people tell them to. So right now they're cheering for Euron, but Jaime's like, just watch. Once you do something wrong, or maybe we just say something, or paint you in a certain light, next thing you know, you may be thrown in prison and also getting stuff thrown at you.
It goes back to my hero, Sir Jorah, in season 1, it was old Daenerys Targaryen. These comic folk do not care about your Game of Thrones and who sits. They just want to be fed and all those things. That if Euron's going to do it, yay, Euron, yay, Cersei, just don't blow us up next time. Rachel, Euron is coming home. He's back, not home, but conquering hero. He's got his gifts. What do you think about this stuff?
I mean, he's a born showman, is what I took from that. Like, we had another horse in the Red Keep moment. Like, we had Tywin do it in season 2, like marching down the center and all the lords around them and dragging Yara behind him on his horse, and then presenting Ilaria and Tyene as gifts. Like, you can tell he's calculated in that, knowing that that that's how to present himself to the lords and to the people and all of that stuff. And to the point of the people accepting him, like, just like in real life, the rich, the powerful, and the victors write history. That's the lens through which we see history.
That's why I'm a New York Yankee fan.
That's right.
And it comes back later with the Elena scene too, and like Cersei even says to Tycho Nestoris, like, "Oh, the Sept was a tragic accident." She's already rewriting history, you know. So if she wins, then she gets to tell it however she wants to, and she is at this point pretty cocky about winning, and so she's rewriting the story, and I love that because that's so true to real history as well. And Euron just plays right into it, and I love their dancing around each other, like Dennis said, like, you know, I'll marry you later. It's like an Elizabeth I thing, just holding off the suitors until it's convenient to do one thing or the other. And I thought it was really interesting that Euron's playing the game right now, but I also think that like she better keep an eye on him because
absolutely he's much like Ramsay, a little unhinged.
Yes.
He's not as predictable as the other ones. And John, it's not bragging or boasting if you can back it up and
damn
do
right.
it. And he so far has proved several times now. I'm going to do what I say.
Like
all right,
did.
let's get into this though. What I'm calling peak Cersei. You're supposed to root against her. She's one of the bad guys. We've known this since the pilot episode. Winter is coming, when she's like, cool, push that 10-year-old out the window because I'm a bad person. But over the course of time, what Game of Thrones does is unfolds these shades of gray. It introduces it into the character where I still believe in Cersei's motivations. I still understand. And I had some people tweet me last night into this morning. I kind of feel bad, but I agree with Cersei. Dennis, is Cersei wrong here?
Well, first of all, Ken, we know all your unrequited love for Cersei, so we know you don't think she's a horrible, terrible character. Yes, there's a lot of shades of gray. I mean, since losing all three of her children, she's gone kind of more full dark side. Where before there was some kind of empathy you could have for her. Yeah, with Ellaria and her daughter. That scene, what struck me the most, obviously, we knew she wanted revenge for her daughter's death. Yeah. She talks about it. What I was most struck by was, okay, she wasn't going to have her like executed and killed, but having her watch her daughter die. But even beyond that, having her watch her daughter's body rot and like put the forethought into, we're going to change the torches every few hours just so you can keep watching. Yeah. Like, we're going to force feed you. She's thought of all the contingency plans to make sure that Ellaria suffers. That goes beyond the typical revenge, fantasies. Usually the revenge fantasies are like, I'm going to kill you and make you suffer. This goes way beyond that. She's thought about this a long, long time.
One of my favorite Cersei lines ever, and now 7 seasons. I don't sleep very well. No, you don't. You haven't for a while. She's been up dreaming about this stuff, John. She's probably got notebooks, names, how I'm going to kill them. This was an emotionally brutal scene with Ellaria and Tywin.
As a resident professional of vengeance, this was the perfect scene. I was texting Rachel all through this scene because I was loving what Cersei was doing here. And here's the thing that occurred to me in that moment. Nothing says for sure that what she kissed her with was poison. It could be her way of torturing Ellaria and Tywin to think that
Ramsay stuff.
Yeah, that she's going to die, and she's like everything is like at optimum level so that she breaks her in a way that she's never been broken before, and then she sends the Mountain in to rape her repeatedly. Like, there's all kinds of things that she can think of, and like Olenna says later, her fault was the fault of imagination. I think Cersei has one of the most devilish imaginations ever in the history of any character I've ever seen on television. So her ability to carry out her vengeance has no limits. Anything you think is a limit does not exist in Cersei's mind. And the fact, I love that she had this vulnerable moment when she said, why did you do that? Like, there was this window. There was like this cute window of humanity that appeared and then was quickly shut because she said, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then she exacted her revenge, or which thinks her revenge. She drinks it. And Ellaria Sand was it Indira Varma? Is that her name?
Yeah.
She was fantastic as an actress in this scene. The real pain, and I loved her in Rome. So to see her do something more even powerfully here in this moment, like see her pain, see her sadness, see her desperation to save her daughter is really powerful. And I love that the moment ends ends with them like unable to touch, held back by
So
the
close.
chains.
Yeah.
Yeah, so close. And so it's perfect revenge. It's classic Cersei. And if you're going to have someone like Euron, you've got to up Cersei's game. And she certainly upped it in this scene. I just love this purely as a revenge lover. This is how you carry out your vengeance, and this is how you do it perfectly, psychologically and then physically later.
Yeah, I thought that for Indira Varma, this is going back to season 4, where she had a great performance with the opposite Pedro Pascal. Season 5 and 6, she didn't have as much to do, which is the Dorne storyline problem, and there was a little bit of like over the top, like your people don't like it. This was back to some great acting. That's made that scene so emotionally brutal to watch, Rachel. But Cersei says, we all make our choices. And Ilaria Sand made her choices.
Absolutely. Like, you don't want to say Ilaria deserved this,
Right.
but on one hand, she did murder an innocent girl.
Yeah, Marcella,
And
exactly.
Marcella had
Total
nothing
innocent.
to do with any of this. So there's this, like you said, like, I don't want to like Cersei or feel for Cersei or believe that Cersei's doing the right thing here, but it's Game of Thrones. So like that's the crux of this. And Cersei's a showman too. Like she the lead up with the mountain standing there and recounting the fight with Oberyn. And Oberyn won that fight, but he just couldn't help himself. He was taunting the mountain and he ended up dying for it. And she's describing the sound of his skull popping. And I'm just like, and you can just see it eat at Ilaria.
Yeah.
And then she goes to Tyene and she says, your daughter's so beautiful. And you just have this pit in your stomach and you're like, what's coming? And the poison was, kind of expected. I actually did sort of turn to my friend. I'm like, her lips are really glossy. So I'm like, I'm kind of suspecting a repeat here, but it's the next level. It's the, like Dennis said, I will force food down your throat. You will not, you're going to live out your days. And there's going to be many days to come where you're going to sit here, you're going to watch her die, you're going to watch her body decay, and you're going to live with this.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's often a trope with like, you don't, when you're getting revenge, you don't want to kill them too quickly.
Right.
You want them to suffer.
Absolutely.
And this is the worst possible way for Ilaria to suffer. And Cersei honed in on that perfectly.
Absolutely. Since we are broadcasting live this morning, if you're watching later, we also go live Mondays now. Bright and early, Robert Moore at Silent Rob 55 says, Cersei's becoming John Doe from 7.
Oh.
Is that align with you guys?
Psychotic?
Dennis, Cersei, I mean, I love the music cue. Call back to season 6, episode 10. There's just, I mean, I love Cersei, Dennis. Is that so?
Well, in another scene that we haven't talked about is when the Bank of Iron Bank of Bravos comes and she negotiates. I mean, look, everything coming to that situation, I've mentioned before, they have no money. They have Tyrells were their biggest allies. They turned against them, so they have no more money. And then she was able to negotiate and convince them, like, no. And remind them, Lannisters always pay our debts, and this is no different. I will get you your money. You hang out here. We'll feed you. You'll have the greatest time of your life, and then I will return your money. And so she convinces him, because otherwise, without any money, she, even though we've seen in this episode how many victories she's had, without money, she can't win the war.
Right. Well, I love that she gave Tycho the 2-week fortnight thing. It's like, oh, brother, we're out there. Well, aren't you just a geographic oddity? 2 weeks from now. I love, though, this is, and I've been getting tweets and some of the other stuff where I talk Game of Thrones at, people would say, what about the Iron Bank? They owe money to the Iron Bank. The Iron Bank will collect. They invested in Stannis. That failed. That's at the bottom of the Blackwater Bay. So I was very happy when Mark Gatiss comes back here, Rachel. This was a fun moment because it's a great character who had one great scene all the way back in, season 4 now? Wow. I really like what's going on here.
Yeah, in a lesser show, they would have dropped that plot line.
Yeah.
Like the owing money in the Iron Bank and when Mace Tyrell and Meryn Trant went over to Bravos to talk to them, all of that stuff, most shows would have just been like, yeah, it's a plot thread we don't need to follow up on, but this is Game of Thrones. And it played perfectly into a plan we didn't even realize Cersei had, and turns out to be a brilliant plan, and just goes to show that what I was talking about at the beginning of this episode, that this is about the children of the older generation coming into their own, and how Tycho Nestora says, like, you are your father's daughter. Tyrion isn't, Jaime isn't. Cersei is the true heir to Tywin in all of the machinations that she's put into play, and her convincing Tycho to invest versus bet, which was another little debate that I loved, in her versus dragons and the Mad King's daughter and Dothraki. Like, who do you think is the better investment here? And she's like, a Lannister always pays their debts. I just wish she hadn't said fortnight because that put a timetable on everything, and 2 weeks is not nearly enough time for those armies and navies to get where they got. Okay, that is the last time I'll bring that up. I promise.
Hashtag map junkie.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Look, if you go back, John, to season 4 stuff when Cersei was going at it with Tywin, just yelling at him, saying, perhaps you didn't realize your daughter was the only one who was learning from you, the only one who was listening and furthering your dynasty, as they love to say. This was definitely Tywin's daughter, as Rachel's saying here in this scene. Is she too overconfident? There's comments about dragons. Oh, we'll take those dragons.
Right.
What's going on with Cersei in this scene?
No, I think she's embracing her confidence and embracing her strength in her position. I mean, the fact that she seduced Jaime with no problem, went right to the lower regions and did what he needed to do, got him in bed, and then didn't care who knocked on the door. She is embracing her power. I'm the queen of the Seven Kingdoms. I will do as I wish. Nobody can tell me what to do. And then she plays Tycho Nestoris, Mycroft Holmes. She plays him to pieces.
Nice.
She plays him to pieces in that scene because and once again, this is great writing by the writers on the show, correlating what's happening here with what happens in our world. We've seen in our history, in our modern history. Revolutionary, the first thing they do is destroy the banks, take that money and disperse it among the people, do what they want, and banks suffer for it. So she's appealing to the logical nature of this guy because financial people are completely different than normal people. People who understand money are financial. That's how you appeal to them, and she knew exactly how to play them. And when everyone else, Rachel, you bring up a great point, when everyone else is running away from their father's legacies, except for maybe Jon and Cersei, they're the only two not running away from their father's legacies and, in fact, improving upon them. Right. And that's what we see with Cersei. So I like this Cersei. I understand your love for her. I get it. Yeah. Just like you love Jorah. I mean, you identify with these men who want these unattainable women. I respect that completely. But they're difficult to love, difficult to be interested. But she is in charge. She seduces Jaime. Jaime doesn't seduce her.
Right.
And it's a power. And I love watching her do this because it only leads up to a fantastic battle that's going to happen between two equally powerful forces. And I can't wait for that to happen.
And again, Dennis, she is confident. Jamie's in her bed, and she's got her handmaiden, who, by the way, the same handmaiden for the other seasons. Now you have to cut your hair. You have to cut your hair like mine now. Is Cersei? Is this overconfidence before a fall?
I mean, possibly, but I don't find her as cocky as Daenerys was this episode. And also, she mentioned something logical also to the Iron Bank, which was about the slave trade. Yeah, they've invested money into this, and Daenerys has come to tear that whole system down. And then if she ends up ruling, they're gonna lose a lot of money. So she's appealing to that logical nature. So she has learned stuff from her father, like you mentioned, and so I think. Yes, maybe with letting everyone know about her and her brother, maybe not the greatest idea, but at least with the Iron Bank situation, she seems to have that handled.
Yeah. Right. All right. So Cersei is in power. She's going full force, full steam ahead. But there's some other little news and notes before we get to the big thing at the end. Theon is back, but also Bran and Sansa reunited. It doesn't necessarily feel so good, John.
No, and you saw Bran couldn't. He seemed indifferent to the situation.
He seems like my friends who go to Burning Man and they come back and they're like, "Hey, man, it's all good. I've seen everything."
Well, it's because you're on a happy overload for 7 days. Just so much you want to calm down. So, I get that with Bran is on a whole nother level. Like you say, he's a three-eyed raven. So pleasantries and emotional stuff are beyond him. It's not that he can't do it. It's that it's irrelevant to what his mission is in the show. What his mission is his life now. And especially when they go to the tree and they sit down, that creepy tree with the face on it, sitting there, and you have this exchange between them. And the fact that he says, "I can see everything that's happened and everything that's going to happen. It's pieces in my mind, but I can see it, and I'm so sorry you had to endure what you endured on your wedding day in the white dress here in our house," which of course unsettles Sansa and has her running away because Sansa is powerful as hell, and we see her embracing her power at the wall, which I always said was the right move. But she can still be unsettled by these memories that she is trying to put walls between so she can function and be strong and lead. And Bran breaks all that down. And Bran will be the X factor in this whole thing. And the fact that because a lot of people bring it up, well, Bran's actually the rightful next in line.
Yeah,
but Bran addresses that quickly in the show, says, I can't be Lord of anything. I'm the three-eyed raven. That's my destiny in life. And I love that.
Sansa's like, cool, dude. What does that mean? I also think it speaks to Bran bringing up this moment, which is the most controversial moment in the show.
Yes.
It could be viewed a little negatively, but I think it's also a testament to what Bran has gone through, Rachel. He's got all of this. He's seen his father die over and over again. He's seen Sansa be this moment with Ramsay that he can't stop. He sees it all, but he can't yet stop it. He can't yet factor in. That's why I think he's a bit catatonic. I think his brain is just on overload.
He can't handle this yet. He wasn't supposed to inherit the three-eyed raven's powers that quickly in the way that it went down in Hold the Door. So he is still processing all of that. And his goal was to get to Winterfell and talk to Jon. Jon's not there. And so he's processing that as well. And, and this is his sister, his blood sister, who went through this hellish thing that he knows about and he saw. And he can't quite handle like a normal human excuse me, emotion to it. And so he says he's sorry, but it's like Jon said, like that is just something that she's blocked out and is trying not to think about, and he brings it up and he does it in this very we thought Arya was kind of cold last week when she was talking to Hot Pie. Like this is a whole other level of he's almost inhuman now and he's not sure of his powers, and he needs to get sure because he says when the long night comes again, we need to be ready. And I kind of got chills with that because I don't know, is this the first time they've actually said the long night in reference to that's what's coming in the show, and I was like that's just ominous.
Yeah, it's like how much has Bran seen Dennis, and I love what he says about Jon Snow. Yes, I need to speak to him. Where I have some information that I need to give him, and also this three-eyed raven explanation is a conversation I have with casual fans of the show. Like, what does it mean? I'm like, it's a thing. It's hard to explain.
Long story.
To be clear, Bran's purpose on the show, his mission on the show, is an exposition tool. He's a plot device. He's a character that we really haven't gotten to know very well. So his transformation to the three-eyed raven is not. We wanted to see this emotional reunion between Sansa and Bran, and it didn't happen because his character is moved on to another level. And, and so, his main purpose is he wants to tell Jon what his lineage is. And then he also wants to talk about the Night King and the White Walkers and them coming. The best part, though, was between him and Sansa. You guys are right. Like, Sansa right now is, much more confident than she's been. She's much more intelligent. She's learned a lot. But there is obviously still a lot of deep-seated emotional trauma from what has happened to her, and that's the one thing. And then finding, knowing that she didn't even really tell Jon. I mean, she kind of hinted at what happened to her with Jon, but didn't really tell her. But here comes someone that knows exactly what happened. Started to talk about the details, and she immediately fled.
Yeah. What? And I can't take credit for this thought. It was put in my head by someone on Twitter named Rax at the Ismail102. He actually tweeted this to me last night. What about this? The man who secretly started the War of the Five Kings, Baelish, and the man who can see everything are in the same place. I wonder what happens next with Baelish's machinations behind the scenes, because we did get some good Baelish stuff here. I loved his speech to Sansa, Rachel. It was a tiny little moment. But yeah, what happened when Bran's like, hey, dude, I know what you did. You're the guy. So that's an interesting thing here.
It definitely is, because I think a lot of us thought that that's where Arya would play in more, or that she would know more information. And we know, like, in the promo material, she had the Dragonbone dagger, so there's been a lot of speculation there. But yeah, I mean, having a sort of know-it-all in your midst sort of can unearth some secrets and cause some mayhem. I was surprised Peter didn't make more of a move this episode. He got a very Littlefinger speech, and Aidan Gillen delivered it beautifully, and it's very telling about, you need to see every move that could possibly be made in any situation. That way you will never be surprised and be ready for whatever comes your way. And that's, again, very Game of Thrones and good good advice. Like if that's how he survived this long and he truly cares for Sansa in this really icky way, then passing that on to her is a smart move, because she had just demonstrated them walking through Winterfell, and she was talking about the food and bringing in food from the other castles, because everybody's going to probably end up, retreating to Winterfell anyway, and then noticing that the armorers weren't putting leather on the breastplates, and they should be doing that. And even Bronn John Royce seemed very, impressed by her, and Peter says, "Command suits you," and so like we're seeing that
That's
evolution
him.
of the lead. But she's not wrong too in the things
wrong.
that she's doing. So like he is doing the Peter thing and whispering in her ear, and she does shut him down. She's like, "You are not the person that knows Cersei better than anybody else in the world," and thanks for your advice. I know she's dangerous. But then he gives a speech, and that does give her pause. And it's, like I said, it's a very Littlefinger thing to do. I want to see his move. I want to know what his plan is. Is it really just to continue to butter her up to put her more at odds with Jon? I hope it's more than that.
I'm sure will. And what I loved about this Baelish moment is when he says, "Fight every battle, everywhere, always in your mind," explains a lot of his success to me.
Sure.
That when things go a little wrong, he's kind of already saw that. He doesn't have the three-eyed raven power, but he kind of could adapt. You're talking about adapting on the fly, Jon. I think this is a little insight into his mind, as well as the great chaos as a ladder speech.
Yeah, and Rachel, I get your point that we want to see his move, but I also think the thing with Baelish is he moves when he's ready to move in his time, that when he sees it, right? And right now he sees a Sansa who's very defiant, pushing back against him. So he finds his moment. So he wore her down to where he had his moment and said, think about this and think about everything and focus on everything, blah, blah, blah. It's his way of turning her a little bit into him. And it's a mirror to what Cersei has with Euron or with Jaime. There is those people advising her in a certain way. So this is kind of her hand of the queen, so to speak, with Littlefinger. So she needs him for now, just like Cersei needs Euron for now. I think once Sansa, the stuff happens, Littlefinger will meet his fate in one way or another. And I think the difference between Bronn and him is that Bronn sees the larger picture, which is something that Tyrion mentioned earlier in the discussion with Jon, that most people can't see the larger picture. They only want the smaller stuff because they can believe in the smaller stuff. Bronn is seeing something, so he sees Peter as a necessary evil in the world for things to happen, right? People say all the time that things happen for a reason. Things always happen for a reason. Some people really believe that. Bronn is the kind of guy that sees why that happens, why every piece fits where it's supposed to fit, and he's still figuring it out, whereas Littlefinger is still thinking he's playing on a chessboard, and my boy's playing 3D chess, and it's a whole nother ball game with what's going on between them. But I love that Bronn is back because it adds another piece of narrative X factor in the whole situation here.
Bronn is back, like Rocha says, Dennis, but also like I said up top to the segment here, Theon is back. little moment with Theon. You have any empathy for this guy at all? Does he factor into this story?
He's gone through also a recent trauma as well. So, now he's been found by the rest of the Greyjoys. And they're like, basically, you're a coward. You ran away. We'll see if he has a redemption story or not. I mean, obviously, they kept him alive for a reason. They didn't kill him off because it would have been a scene where they would kill off a character like that if his story was done.
Yeah, absolutely. It is not just season 1 character, pilot character, Rachel, that's still floating around. So there's some reason for Theon to come back.
And we also don't know what the deal is with what Euron's going to do with Yara. I saw a lot of people say last week that he saved Yara's life by jumping overboard. Like there was no way he would have been able to rescue her. So he saved both of their lives in that moment, and that this could be wishful thinking, but there's an idea of like his redemption could come in the form of somehow rescuing her or at least getting to her before she dies in some way. So like I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility, but I very much love that Greyjoy captain called him on a shit. Like he tried to lie and say that I tried to rescue her, and the guy was like, if you'd really tried, you wouldn't be here. You would have died trying. So that's, I think, like nobody's gonna buy, like he's not going to be able to play off that like he did anything other than flee, which is what he did. So
Absolutely there. And then Theon, you have any empathy for Theon at this point?
I do, of course. I think he did make the right move. Yara's still alive, although she's obviously being dragged through the streets by Euron, which is terrible. But he did the right move, whether people like it or not, in the overall larger picture of the situation. He still lives to fight another day, just like Jorah. If you keep certain people alive in this show, in the books, I think it's for a reason. You know, George R. likes to kill people off in his books. We see it in the show, but I think certain people are kept alive because they have a purpose to serve in the long, long, long game.
Right. And we also have the Citadel. Sam, the healer. He's no longer a slayer. He, a little sweet moment. Not much to it yet. You could dive into more. I want to get to some of the main event stuff here, but it was nice. I love the crossover with Jorah and Sam, Rachel. A little callback to Jorah Mormont and what it meant to Sam, and he did it. And Jorah's looking great. He's fine.
Yep.
I'm a little disappointed Quaith's not involved in this healing. I'm a little disappointed that Jorah just shows up and, but that's the cost of these faster story-based seasons and episodes, so I'm okay with it because my man Jorah is going to go back, and I think he might have a new job.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see, he went through all of this. It was fairly simple in the long run. He's cured. He's going back to Dany. But I liked the Jorah-Sam dynamic because their newfound friendship could maybe be a bridge for Jon and Dany. Is Jorah is Dany's advisor, Sam is Jon's. And for me, the single best moment from all of that was when they shook hands, because that's a very poignant thing. Like, you don't touch somebody who had grayscale, and Sam very sincerely holds his hand out to shake, and I just, for a relationship that's only existed for 2 episodes, it was very moving to me. So
and Sam's gonna have to copy those books, and I think he's gonna start finding out some answers in those books, John. But this moment with Jorah, I think, and Jen Kemp, who's watching live at JK
Hi,
Mean
Jen.
Queen, says, "Will Dany fire Tyrion as a hand of the Queen after his massive strategic blunder? Jorah's coming back." I think Jorah has a job, which is military advisor to Daenerys Targaryen.
Absolutely, and she's picking up advisors. People want to come and aid her and help her in her quest to be the queen. Like good people like Jorah. I think the grayscale is symbolic to Jorah's guilt over what he did in his crime to the Mormont clan. So there's a lot of redemption going on here with Jorah. And you're right, the handshake is beautiful. There's no greater moment than someone understanding your pain, holding your hand, and seeing you as an equal. It puts you at ease, and you see Jorah now can go back with a clearer conscience to go back to Dany and do what he needs to do. I love the Archmaester pulling a Mr. Miyagi on Sam, going like, "You're going to have to copy all these scrolls." Sam going, "What? I thought." And he's like, "Oh, you thought you were going to get a reward? No, this is your punishment, but your punishment is the reward because you will learn all this knowledge by transcribing all this stuff."
Something will be in there, Dennis, about Azor Ahai, something about the long night, something that's going to be in there. Jorah, what do you think about this? New job coming?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we see Tyrion has been a great advisor to Dany, but more in the political realm. He knows the people of Westeros. He knows what Dany needs to do politically, but not militarily, as we see in this episode and in previous episodes. Even in Marine, he failed to negotiate any type of real truce.
Right.
But in this scene, I enjoyed this. Jorah and Sam is a good scene. A little quick for me, I mean, you fix it, you're all right.
Cut.
This is supposed to be like basically the touch of death, right? Okay. But hopefully that plays in later. They'll meet again when Sam is by Jon's side and Jorah's by Dany's side.
It is those little scenes.
I think Jorah's going to save Sam's life by sacrificing himself. That's what I think. That's what I think. That's his part to play. In some.
Now it's time for the main event as we close the show here. We got the main event. Dany's at the painted table. She's pissed. She wants to take her dragons. She wants to get on top and fly. And I think a little bit of a moment where Melisandre's like, one arrow could take you down. You know that arrow the awesome Qyburns built beneath the Red Keep? I think that is a little bit of a warning of something that could come. Not necessarily Dany's death, but I do think we're losing a dragon. But Dany is upset. She wants to go burn everything down. But Tyrion's like, hey, we got Casterly Rock. My father... he made me build the toilets, and this is what I did. We're going to be good, Rachel. It's all good. Oops.
Yeah, right. It was actually a really interesting battle sequence. I know a lot of fans are disappointed because it really wasn't a battle sequence, but I liked Tyrion narrating it. It's a different way to showcase a set piece, and he narrates it the way that you think it'll go, and then turns out that's not the case because, I built the sewers for, my own personal pleasure back in the day, but they're going to help us in this instance. And so then it plays out in the way that it actually played out, but too easily. And Grey Worm's like, what's the deal? Look out over the harbor, and there's silence. There are the Greyjoy ships, and we're sunk, literally.
Yeah.
So that was it's sort of a disappointing if you really wanted a big battle, but it was an interesting way to present it to us as viewers, and I appreciated that. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
What I did not appreciate was the look of Casterly Rock. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I was so disappointed by this. That's supposed to be a huge mountain of a rock, and the city's built in it with just the ring fort on top, and it's supposed to be 3 times the height of the wall. It's supposed to be imposing. I didn't find that thing imposing at all.
I agree with that.
It was not where they spent the special effects budget too well for me.
Casterly Rock, something we've been waiting for a long time to
Yes.
either read or see,
Yeah.
and it didn't play out, but it also is what Jamie said. Casterly Rock doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's a
ultimately.
shaggy dog here. It doesn't necessarily matter. I at first had a problem with this, but I wanted the Battle of Casterly Rock, and then okay, I want the Battle of Highgarden. But I agree, and you always watch those inside the episodes after Dan and Dave saying no one in Highgarden is known for their fighting.
Oh God, no!
That's not.
They're roses.
We didn't need to show a fight. We already knew what was going to happen. John, the execution of these 2 battles.
Yeah.
Did you like it, and where would you?
Yeah,
fall on?
absolutely loved it. I don't know who is complaining that there's not. You can't have massive battle sequences every episode.
I was at first, and then I realized this is
Then
different.
Start a Kickstarter and pay for it. Like to me, it's just like
Right
it's like these are great mini battles that lead us to the larger battles, and I'm just happy we're getting battle scenes. I don't care that we have to have these massive 20-minute battles. I don't need them. We get the point because this game is being played at another level. We think that Tyrion has figured this out and is going to get the one up on the Lannisters, and no, that's not what happens. Jaime and Cersei get one up on them by marching on Highgarden and taking Elena Tyrell's place and obviously killing her. So you have this twist and turn, which is what's so great about Game of Thrones. I loved the twist. I was so happy with the twist because I was with Tyrion going, yeah, that's right, get him, and then the switch, and then looking out, that awesome shot of them seeing the ships, Grey Worm seeing his ships getting blown to pieces and set on fire was fantastic. And then you juxtapose that with them just marching in unison like this impenetrable force coming to destroy everything, and then stacking the bodies. Right. What great imagery there. And then Olenna sitting there as a regal queen waiting for the meeting with Jaime. So I enjoyed the hell out of those battle sequences. I don't need the large battle till later. This satiates me enough to keep me going.
And absolutely, Dennis, I'll tell you my favorite death in all of Game of Thrones is Elena Tyrell and the way she went out. Yeah. This is great moments, some of the best acting we've seen with these 2 performers. Diana Rigg's great. I love what's going on here.
Yeah, because she before she dies, she lets Jaime know not only just that she had killed Joffrey, but also that, look, Cersei's a poison and she's spreading, and she's, I helped spread it, you're helping spread it, and this is going to mess with Jaime's head because he already knows these things. These are the things that are already going through his head that just are, just bubbling there. And the more confirmation he gets, this leads up to, what myself and I'm sure a lot of other people have predicted that he will eventually kill Cersei. I mean, Olenna says, "Oh, Cersei is going to be the end of you," but I think at some point he may break and take her out. And for me, the battle stuff didn't bother me that much because to me it was inconsequential. It was about the military play versus the actual. We can't have Battle of the Bastards every episode, right?
Yeah.
That's what makes Battle of the Bastards so special. We've built to that moment. They put the money and the time in, and we get to see it. We're Casterly Rock. We haven't seen it before. Yes, it wasn't that regal or fantastic, but in terms of the storyline, it didn't really matter. They just wanted to show what happened. And then same with Highgarden. Yeah. We know, like, even as soon as I found out they were marching on Highgarden, I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna take him out, no problem. Those guys are not warriors. Yeah. So, but the scene between Olenna and Jaime,
Elena Tyrell, a warrior to the end.
Yeah. I mean, just the way she went out and she waited. She waited to she took the poison before she's like, oh, by the way, I killed your son. Yeah. Because she knew at that point he couldn't do anything about it. Can't take back the poison. Can't make her suffer anymore. It's over.
It's over.
And that's why he left. I mean, but there was so much going on in Jaime's face,
Yeah.
And Elena Tyrell, one of my favorite characters, Grandmama Tyrell. She's
way
out.
Way to go.
Yeah.
It's a way to go. And her warning to Jaime, I think, might be prophetic. She's a disease, and I regret helping her, and you will too, Jaime. Rachel, quickly, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, that scene was so brilliantly acted. I think it's Nikolai Coster-Waldau's best acting to date. I think it's Diana Rigg's best acting to date. That it's funny. Their barbs back and forth were amazing. And then he shows empathy by saying, I convinced Cersei not to drag you through the streets of King Landing, and here is a poisoned cup of wine, and she gulps that down, and as soon as she knows that she took it, then she lays it on him, and his face when he because she pokes him in the right ways. As a Kingsguard, your king died on your watch. Your son died on your watch. And it's not the way I intended it. And then when that realization on his face killed me. And I was just like, and after all the talk of Cersei being the monster and him essentially agreeing, but that he's too far gone with it. And then this, and I agree, like Jaime's not, I'm more convinced now than ever that Jaime's not gonna make it out alive, but that his last ditch, grasp at humanity or doing something noble or right will be to take the monster out.
Right, absolutely, John. Your final thought here on Jaime. I think Jaime, the way he chose to kill her, also speaks a little bit of the newer Jaime. He's still beholden to Cersei, but he's still somewhat of a better man. I think, though, I think Rachel's right. Jaime might go.
Yeah, I think so too. And hey, who hasn't been in love with the wrong person? We all do it. It's part of life. We all have to. Like the second you have that friend who's telling you this is what's wrong with the person you're dating. This person treats you like this, treats you like this, and you don't see it. Jaime did that. He explained her away. Oh yeah, she's a monster to you. She's a monster to others. But I see another side of her. I see this. This is what happens, and I think this is what sets it all up. And Jaime can't live in both worlds. He can't be redeemed and still be Cersei's lover. He can't. He's trying to play in both worlds. And we see that in Game of Thrones all the time. When you're trying to play both sides, you get burnt in the middle. And I see that happening with Jaime as this goes forward. And some people die and they make amends and they want to go to their maker saying, I forgave everybody who hurt me. Elena went out gangsta style. She took everybody out that she needed to take out and left on her own terms, and she did it totally gangsta, and I love that. And she will forever be one of my top 5 favorite characters on this entire series, just for that perfect ending.
Absolutely, guys. We're running along, so we want to wrap up so we can get on with our day, but we'll be talking Game of Thrones all week. You can follow us on Twitter at all our locations, so let them all say that. You've also seen them on the bottom there, but use that hashtag Thrones Talk to continue the conversation all week. Again, this was absolutely one of my favorite episodes in all of the 7 seasons. A lot of it based on that final scene with Elena Tyrell, but next week it looks like all hell is starting to break loose and things are happening with only a few episodes left. The book is almost done. Dennis, thanks for joining us. Tell them where they could talk at you all week with the Thrones Talk.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always talking Game of Thrones with all you guys and in general to myself. So you can tweet me at ThinkHero or follow me on Instagram, dennis.tzng, to just talk about Game of Thrones. I love talking about Game of Thrones all day.
John Rocha.
Yeah, you guys can always follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. See all the shows I'm doing, all the stuff that and then the articles I'm writing for trackingboard.com. So go and do all that.
Absolutely. Talk about vengeance and revenge.
Absolutely.
John Rocha, Rachel
Come tweet
J.
at me.
Cushing.
Yeah, definitely tweet at me. I mean, we went long, but we could have gone so much longer. There were things that we didn't even really get to. Bran, we caught a shot of him. There was a lot of stuff in this episode, a lot to unpack. So yes, tweet at me at Rachel J. Cushing. And check in tomorrow. I have a match on the Movie Trivia Schmodown, Inner Geekdom versus Mike Kalinowski.
Wow.
Will be a good one. Thanks to Adam in the booth pressing all the buttons and making us look good. We'll see you guys next week live Monday morning. Thrones Talk on Collider Video.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.